Hi, pleased to see everybody. Pleased to see so many people at this first Sheffield GeekUp. My name is Lorna Mitchell. I'm a PHP developer, consultant and trainer with a company called iBuildings. iBuildings are a new UK company and we are the PHP professionals. Tonight I'm going to talk a bit about deploying web projects with Subversion. So I'll talk a bit about Subversion, I'll talk a bit about deploying web projects, I'll talk how your repository structure can help you to deploy projects in an efficient way, and I'll also touch on the issues around deploying databases and the problems around that. So SVN, Subversion, it's a source control tool. Probably most of you have heard of it or used it or one of its competitors. It's a way of managing versions of code. If you work on your own, it makes a history of everything that you've changed. If you work in a team, it gives everybody a central keeping place for their code, where each developer can access the code. If you're working on different parts of the system, then it'll handle all those changes for you, and it'll let you know if two people have edited the same thing. The nice thing about Subversion is there's lots and lots of clients available for all different systems, so it's easy for anybody to work with. I'm also talking about deployment, and by deployment I mean the act of putting your code from its development home to its production home, whether that's for the first time or whether you're deploying changes, bug fixes or whatever onto there. The way that you might do this, certainly in a small scale project, is to use FTP, SCP or something similar. If you've got shared hosting, you might be uploading through a control panel, and this just transfers files from one to the other. There's nothing wrong with this method, and it certainly works. You can take it a step further by, for example, scripting this copying from one location to another. For example, you might have folders named the same thing in both environments, and by writing a script that accepts a project name, you would then be able to copy your code reliably from development into live. You can take it further with Subversion by exporting from Subversion and then copying that, and you can record the revision number so you know what version of your code was actually put live, what state it was in at the moment that was pushed across to production. Subversion has an additional feature called where you can check out, and this is common to all source control projects, and you can check out from your live platform and just call the update to pull up any changes that have gone into your main repository. It's very important that you don't serve the .svn directories or any of the metadata to do with your source control system if you use this method. Subversion and its competitors have functionality called commit hooks, and these are just like a database trigger. They fire off in response to an event, so you can ask your commit hook to trigger another script. For example, you can ask it to upload when you commit to your repository, or upload to a staging server perhaps. In Subversion it's possible to tag revision numbers. Subversion has a project-wide revision number anyway, but you can give that human readable name, which allows you to keep track of, in a readable way, of a particular version. Taking that step further, Subversion also offers branching, and branching is exactly what it sounds like. It's literally an offshoot, just like a tree. So your development may fork, or it may sort of diverge. Somebody does a project and then the changes get merged back in to the trunk afterwards. A basic repository structure in Subversion might be to have the trunk as your main code, and you get everything ready, you do some testing, and then you release from trunk. It might be that you branch out and back in again when you're doing large projects. I've seen some nice setups where there's actually a live branch, so you have your trunk, and once each change is ready, rather than releasing a whole branch, you patch the change across into the live branch, and it goes live from there. So this allows you to do like a continuous release of ongoing fixes, and it depends on your software development process, whether you release in sort of cycles or whether you do a continuous upgrade. One thing which is always the flaw in the plan when deploying automatically from one platform to another is exporting databases. It's pretty common just to do an export, copy that up to the live version and then import it from there, but then you're transferring a lot of data around quite often. You can improve on this by not making any direct operations to your local database, writing a patch file and then running the patch file against the local database, and this allows you to then run those same patch files when you put your code changes live. With a nice sort of extension to that idea, it's nice to number the patches and give your database some awareness of what level it's patched up to, especially if you're maintaining multiple copies of the same system. You store all these in SVN and they deploy and then get run once all the code is there on the live server. I've talked a little bit about the ways that you can deploy web projects with Subversion. I've talked about Subversion, I've talked about simple deployment techniques, I've talked about a little bit about repository structures that might help you, and I've also touched on the sort of troublesome subject of database deployment. So that's just to give you a little overview really of this topic. That's it, 6.5 minutes, goes by quite quickly. Thank you all for your patience. One thing I would say is I'm giving a talk next month at a conference in the Netherlands, so if anybody has any feedback for me on my speaking technique, I'd be really grateful. Thank you very much.